and good day. This is Tallybreeze Tutorials, and in this video we're going to discuss briefly the various business models that Tallybreeze has a template for. Let's get right to it. Okay, so when you edit your listings in Tallybreeze, you will be prompted to import chart of accounts and templates for your listing. And so if I were to click on this button right here, you'll notice that you have several different options of templates that you can import into your accounting software, such as QuickBooks or Xero. And in this video, I'm going to go over this list briefly. So we'll start with the first one here, the Airbnb investment property. And so basically what this template assumes is that this is your property. So when Airbnb makes a payout, they're paying to you, and you are paying a mortgage payment. Well, maybe you're not paying a mortgage, maybe the house is paid off. But either way, what does that look like in Tallybreeze? So let's take a look at that. All right, so in this setup, we're assuming that this is a property, an Airbnb investment property, and the setup looks like this. For every reservation that Tallybreeze sees, we're going to create an invoice into QuickBooks Online, and in this invoice, these 6 line items here is basically saying that 100% of everything collected from Airbnb is yours in this case. And that is the case. So everything, including the accommodation fare, the cleaning fee, the Airbnb service fee, the cost of that Airbnb service fee is your cost. Any resolution adjustments is yours. Any custom taxes or taxes whatsoever are taxes that you need to keep track of. And that is basically it for the Airbnb investment property business model. Again, fairly straightforward. Let's move on. Next is the Airbnb arbitrage business model. And you'll notice that this is actually very similar to the Airbnb investment business model, except rather than paying a mortgage payment, you are paying a rent payment. So Airbnb, any money that they pay out they're paying to you, and you're paying a rent payment. And so what does that look like in Tallybreeze? Let's take a look. I have set up this listing with Airbnb arbitrage here. So this listing is very much the same. Everything that comes from Airbnb is also yours. So you'll notice that 100% of everything collected from Airbnb, including the accommodation fare, cleaning fee, Airbnb service fee, the cost of that, and everything else is 100% yours, except rather than paying a mortgage, you're paying rent to a landlord. In this case, you are subleasing the property on Airbnb. And so when Airbnb pays you, 100% of everything collected from Airbnb is indeed yours. So that's the Airbnb arbitrage business model. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's skip ahead to the Airbnb co-host business model. What does that look like? Scroll on down here. In this case, Airbnb is paying an owner, and the owner is paying you in this case. Let's see what that looks like in Tallybreeze. And we have that set up here. Okay, so check this out. For every reservation that Tallybreeze sees for this co-host listing, in the case where Airbnb is not paying you, but the owner is paying you, what Tallybreeze is doing is we're creating an invoice. We're setting the owner, in this case, Dan Miles is the owner of the property. We're creating an invoice to Dan Miles. And in this invoice, we're collecting 20% of the accommodation fare, and we're receiving 100% of the cleaning fee, and any resolution adjustments, we're taking 20% of that. So we're going to create an invoice for Dan Miles, and later on, Dan Miles is going to pay that invoice to you. You're going to receive that money from Dan Miles later on. He's going to pay this invoice. And so that is the setup for a co-host business model. Okay, so let's move on. So let's skip ahead and talk about trust accounting for Airbnb property managers. Let's talk about that. So let's scroll down to this. So in this case, now trust accounting is the most comprehensive business model where Airbnb is paying out money to a trust account that is managed by you. But when Airbnb pays out that money, none of that money is yours. That money goes into a trust account. Okay, so let's take a look at what that setup looks like here in Tallybreeze. All right, and you'll notice that in this case, for every reservation that Tallybreeze sees, we're going to create this invoice. And in this invoice, the owner of the property, the owner's name is Dan Miles here. And you'll notice the first 6 line items here, we're saying that 100% of everything collected from Airbnb, everything, 100% is the owner's money within the trust account. All right? It's not your money. It's the owner's money. You're managing the money. You're managing the trust account, but it's the owner's money, not yours. And then in the next 4 line items here, you see these negative 20% and positive 20%. What that's saying is that 20% is being pulled out of the owner's fund and then paid to you as a commission. That's what's happening in these 4 line items. So you're essentially earning a 20% commission. And then the next 4 line items is the cleaning fee. In this deal that you made with the owner, you are taking 100% of the cleaning fee. We're going to deduct that from the owner's funds, and we're going to pay that cleaning fee to you. And so that's what this business model looks like in a trust account. Okay, so let's move on to Airbnb property management without trust accounting. Let's talk about that for a moment. So what does that look like? So in this case, Airbnb, rather than paying a trust account, Airbnb is paying you. And then what you're doing is you're taking a piece of that pie and you're paying a portion of that to the property owner. Okay, so rather than using a trust account, they're paying you and you're paying a property owner. All right, so what does that look like in Tallybreeze? All right, in Tallybreeze, we have this set up. Okay, so in Tallybreeze, for every reservation that Tallybreeze sees with this kind of setup, we're creating an invoice, and in the first 6 line items of the invoice, 100% of the money is yours. That's what we're saying here. And then 80% of the money is being deducted from you as a cost and is being placed as a payable to the owner. So 80% of the accommodation fare minus 80% of the Airbnb service fee is going to be deducted as a cost to you and paid to the owner. That is the case for Airbnb property management without trust accounting. Now, why do people do this? First of all, trust accounting has a lot of overhead. There's a bit of a learning curve to it. But another reason why users do this, and you'll see a lot of this in the United States, is because not all of the United States requires trust accounting. But when you go to a bank and you ask for a loan and you show them that you're making 100% of that revenue coming from Airbnb, you're actually going to get qualified for a bigger loan. And so that's why a lot of our users will do that. Okay, so the purpose of this video is we wanted to give you a brief overview of these templates. We actually have many articles that go over each of these templates individually in great detail, but we wanted to give you a brief overview in this video. And with that said, this is Tallybreeze Tutorials. This concludes our overview of business model templates for Tallybreeze, and I will see you in the next video.